Hi, I'm Janet Prym.
And I'm Jessica Johnson.
Today we'd like to share with you some tips that we've come up with on how to make costumes for toddlers.
Before you make a costume, there's a couple things that you need to think about. Of course, we all know toddlers can be very stubborn and very opinionated. So if you don't think about a few key things, you could end up in a disaster. First of all, you're going to want your toddler to be excited about it. If they're not excited, you may never get it on them. You want it to fit properly. Not only is it important for safety, but you want them to be comfortable in it. It needs to be weather appropriate. Think about the conditions that you live in. We live in a colder climate, so we like to have a little bit warmer costume. This is a great benefit to making your own costumes because
you can, if you live in a warmer climate, then you use a lighter weight fabric. In our circumstance, we found some polar fleece to be the perfect fabric for our costume. So now that we've decided what the child wants to be for this particular event, we have to go to the fabric store. A good thing to pick up is a picture of whoever that character is, whether it's a cartoon character, a video character, a storybook, but try to find a picture that you can take with you to the fabric store. Then you'll choose the pattern that best fits the silhouette. Now, the pattern companies have a lot of costumes today, so it's really fun, but they don't have every character your child might want to be.
My daughter wanted to be a specific cartoon character, which ended up being a dog. So we went with a dog costume.
And that pattern seemed to fit our silhouette, but we did know that it wasn't likely to be the perfect fit for her little body. So we knew when we got back to the studio we'd need to make some pattern adjustments. But we chose the fabrics that would best suit a costume that would be worn outdoors in the fall in Michigan. And so we use polar fleece.
Yeah, it's important when you're shopping for your fabric to keep a couple things in mind. Like she said, the weather. We live in Michigan. It's very cold. You don't want your child's costume to be covered up by a coat the entire time.
Correct.
You want it to be comfortable. You don't want it to be itchy or scratchy or too tight, and then they just want to take it off the entire time. And you want it to be washable. And those are all great things about this polar fleece. You may make the costume for a certain event, but who knows, maybe Wednesday afternoon your toddler's going to want to throw that thing on and have lunch in it.
So the polar fleece is also, like she said, washable and easy to sew on. It's very forgiving, so consider that if you live in a northern climate like we do. But once you have all your supplies, be sure to consult the back of the envelope of the pattern. It'll tell you exactly what you need and how much you need. And now it's time to figure out how we're going to make sure that this costume is going to fit that toddler appropriately. And unless you have pattern drafting experience, sometimes that's a pretty daunting task, trying to figure out what this flat piece of paper is going to be like and how is it going to fit a three-dimensional body. So we went to the closet and we found
these perfect little footed pajamas that she would wear to bed every night. I knew that they fit. I knew it was a similar silhouette to the pattern that we already bought.
Okay, so what we want to do is we got out our, and this is a jumpsuit. Jumpsuits are, really good for animal costumes. So what we did was we measured this finished garment against the pattern tissue. Always keep in mind that you have to add seam allowance to that width. So if you decide the width is 20 inches, remember that you still need to add the 5/8 inch for every seam that's in that particular piece. So we measured across the width of this little jumpsuit, and then we measured across the width of this pattern piece and realized we were about 4 inches too big in the full circumference of the garment. So what we decided we needed to do is take 1 inch out of each of the 4 quadrants of the jumpsuit. To do that, you're going to make a straight line all the way down the entire pattern piece and make sure that it's parallel with the straight of the grain. Now you'll fold out a 1/2 inch. So be sure to measure this, fold, and make sure it's a 1/2 inch. And then just tape it into place. And you could just go all the way down. 2 or 3 pieces of tape will hold it in place. Go down the full length of the pattern. Now we've taken, again, 1 inch out of every quarter of the jumpsuit, which gives us a full 4 inches in distance. Try to keep that in mind, because you don't want to end up making it too small. You'll have to start over. Now the next thing we did was measure the length from here to here, and we determined that we needed to shorten it quite a bit. So this is my fold here. And then again, down here, which would have been from the crotch to the foot, and always leave some room for the hem, of course. And again, you can tape that as well. Now, you'll see what happens when you fold pieces like this that are really long and you're taking a lot up. You're going to end up with an area where the line does not blend properly. And you can see, you can't actually sew this and have that big jog in there. So you could take something like a French curve and find the exact angle to get that at and draw that right on a piece of paper that you tape to this. Or if you don't have the tool, just go ahead and use your scissors and just draw, making sure that you end up right at the very end of that pattern piece. And there you'll do the same thing if you need to shorten the sleeves. There's always shortened lengthened lines that go horizontally across the pattern piece. Find that. That's where the pattern drafter has determined the most appropriate place to shorten that garment. So once you have all your pattern pieces prepared, then it's just a very simple project to cut and sew.
And then once you have that all figured out, you're going to want to put your accessories together, the little finishing touches on the garment. One thing that we came across was that we were looking for a specific character. The ears on this pattern weren't the same as the ears on the character. Of course, a toddler is going to notice that. So we just cut the ears down a little bit. The same goes for the tail. The original pattern piece for the tail looked like this. So we cut it out, put it together, and we ended up with a club. Probably not what we were looking for and didn't fit the size of the toddler. So what we actually did was found the tail on the monkey pattern and cut it down a little bit and filled it out. And it worked perfectly size-wise and with the costume and the character that we were looking for. Same thing goes for the spats, the little covers on the shoes or the paws of our dog. This is probably a little bit bigger than the foot of a toddler. So all I did was take a shoe and put it down, and I just did a quick, just trace around and tried to put it in the middle and just tried to follow the lines and cut it down so that it would fit more comfortably over her shoes. It's more comfortable, it's safety, she's not tripping on it, and easy peasy. We got, go ahead.
Well, that's what's really cool about spats in a costume is they can wear their regular shoes. And again, toddlers have to be comfortable. They don't understand all of the ceremony of wearing a costume. They just want to have fun and they want to be comfortable. So this way she can wear her own tennis shoes, and it's just as if she was wearing a pair of her own pajamas as well.
Absolutely. It was perfectly comfortable. We could layer it with other garments underneath because it was cold. We got the vest and the little goggles to finish out the character, and it was a great success.
It really was. We've got a couple of other costumes we've made for toddlers over here, and one of the things I wanted to point out is, first of all, let's start with Cinderella. Cinderella has a lot of fabrics that would be very scratchy and itchy to a child. So when we did the underskirt to make the skirt stand way out, we lined underneath that, so none of the netting was coming up against the child. And those of you who have toddlers know it's scratchy. I don't want to wear it. So this one's been well worn for a couple of years. I made it just a little bit big in the waist, in the torso here, so that the child would get to wear it more than just a few months.
Yeah, bigger is always better when they're growing so quickly.
Exactly. And then here we did a little rainbow costume, and this time I Velcroed the straps on, again making it more adjustable. Not only should they wear it, maybe a cousin wants to borrow it, a neighbor, they're playing dress up. As they grow, the costume will again grow with them. So again, comfortable, safe, and fun costumes for toddlers.